Hi, welcome to the Peak Performance Podcast. My name is Brad Young and I'm the host. Today we're going to be looking at unlocking your peak performance potential. And so far, we've discovered your hidden strengths. We've unlocked peak performance through self-awareness. We've discovered what peak performance means to you. And all those attachments are on the link for the podcast. So every podcast episode has a practical application to it. So when you get through, listening to the podcast and go in, and I've got a little more information in there, then you take a survey. You basically go through and you read and answer some questions to figure out what your hidden strengths are, what your peak performance self-awareness is, how self-aware you are, what it means to you. And now we're going to look at unlocking your peak performance potential. And so as we look at this, it's quite interesting because, we think about potential. Potential is what you can become. It's not what you are, but it's what you can become. And so as we look at, unlocking your true potential, whether it's in life or sport, what's holding you back from getting to the next level? I'm going to break this down. We're going to look at some actionable strategies to strengthen your mindset, elevate your physical health, and optimize your nutrition for peak results. Along with this, we're going to go over the most common roadblocks that stand in the way of your success, how you can crush them. Because whether you're an athlete chasing greatness, a coach guiding others, or someone ready to level up, if you're ready to level up in everyday life, this is for you. The episode, has everything you need to push beyond your limits. So, tune in and take action, because everything that, I do is based on practical application. So as we're looking at becoming our best selves, what can we do to get to that elite peak performance? What's standing in the way? Let's make this personal. What's holding you back? I'm going to give you a list, but think about it. Write it down. What's holding you back? What's holding you back from that peak performance in whatever area of life it is? What is it? Well, when you take a look and you think at it, you got to think, okay, what's holding me back? What's my full potential? And then how can I form a path of small intentional actions to build momentum to be able to get to peak performance? We're in this all together. So the strategies shared are designed for you. They're simple, actionable strategies that can ignite change. It's time to shift gears, push boundaries, and move closer to what you've envisioned in life. So what are some roadblocks? So this is the thing is, when you want to unlock your peak performance, what are roadblocks? What are some common roadblocks that come through? So procrastination and lack of time management. So you don't lack time, you just lack time management. People have to realize that, procrastination is something people do whether they're aware of it or not. They put everything off, and, I do the same thing. I definitely procrastinate on things. And most of the time, the things you procrastinate on are the things that you can get done the most quickly and easily. You just don't realize it, And the same thing with your time management. It's you're in a hurry all the time. You have a lack of time management. So that's going to affect you in so many ways to attaining that peak performance. Another thing is you could have fear of failure or fear of rejection. So you got fear of failure, fear of rejection. That happens all the time. Salespeople, they learn that early, that rejection is just going to come, and rejection is going to be there in your life no matter what, whether you're dating, you're out at a bar, get shot down. Hey, you got rejected, move on to the next one, and the same thing. When you don't want to fail, you want to run that marathon, but you don't want to fail. And so you're too scared to take action. So this is why, we're looking at this today. We're looking at, being able to unlock that potential, but you got to figure out what's holding you back, because, you can't hold yourself back from your true potential. Negative self-talk and limiting beliefs, that happens constantly, And so, if you're wanting to get to the next level, you want to get to a peak performance, you got to talk positive about yourself, and you don't have no limiting beliefs, It's those limiting beliefs that make you question yourself. And we can't have that. We've got to make, you'll see, as you get to the survey and the questions that are in the attachment that goes to the podcast, that, we're going to work on these things together. So lack of clarity or direction in your goals. This is a big one too. This is a very common thing. Be clear, have a direction. If you're wanting to set the world record in pull-ups, then you need to have, it needs to be very clear. And then you have to have a true direction of how to train and not overtrain, and that's where peak performance comes in. We've got to, as we learn more and more about the human body, you're going to understand more about peak performance. If you learn more about nutrition, learn more about stretching, mental toughness, all these things that we go over, you're going to learn more about them. So as we continue to grow, you're going to clear up those goals. You're going to have that direction. Burnout or lack of motivation. That's definitely something that gets in the way, because it happens all the time. You get burnout, lack of motivation. And so at the end of the day, motivation ends at some point. The drive keeps you going. So you've got to be able to take that motivation and turn it into drive and get moving, because the drive keeps you going. That's why I make so many podcasts. I keep working. I keep writing books, because I'm driven. I'm gonna make this. And you got to believe in yourself. It doesn't matter if anybody else does. The psychological standpoint of it is you have to believe in yourself. It doesn't matter who believes in you and who doesn't. I wrote 52 best-selling books in 1 year, and I guarantee you that nobody believed I could do it. But I knew I could, and I made it. And so you can do the same thing. Distractions from technology or your environment, and that's another big one. That's a roadblock for sure. Technology is so distracting. People spend 5 hours and more on their phones every day, which it's okay if you're listening to my podcast, but otherwise, but in all seriousness, technology is a huge distraction. It distracts us from getting the things done. If you're training for an Ironman triathlon, you don't need to be on your phone. You need to be out training. You need to be making sure you're resting. You need to make sure you're stretching, doing all the things that you should do. Poor physical health and lack of energy. That's definitely a roadblock, and that's why people are interested in peak performance, to be able to get past that. When you listen to the story of Rich Roll, he's an amazing guy, and he was in poor health, and had all kinds of issues, and he turned himself into one of the greatest triathletes ever. But he had to go after that peak performance. He had to want it. You got to want it. Resistance to change or stepping outside of your comfort zones, and that's a definite one. That happens to all of us. It gets right in from between us and peak performance, and so you got to keep that in mind. Lack of support or accountability. Lack of accountability. You've got to be self-accountable. You got to be accountable for what you do every single day. Just like I put in time with these podcasts, whether it's late at night, really early in the morning, or whenever I can, I keep putting effort in. I keep working, because I know it's going to be they're all going to be successful. I wouldn't have as many downloads a month as I do without this, and I love what I'm doing. So when we look at these roadblocks, here are some ways that we can work to start overcoming some of these things. The power of consistency. Change doesn't happen without small, steady steps. You build habits that stick, that show up every day. Fuel for success. When your body fuels your mind, prioritize balanced meal to stay energized, focused, and ready to tackle anything. Because you got to fuel yourself. And I catch myself doing this all the time. I will not eat enough calories. I'm a very active 205 pound, 5'10", 5'11", 47-year-old male. It's very active. And I have to make sure that I'm eating enough and at the right times, and I catch myself not doing it like I need to. These are so you've got to fuel for success. If you want to overcome the roadblocks, make sure you prioritize your eating. Prioritize rest and recovery. Rest isn't a luxury; it's a secret weapon. Make sleep and recovery non-negotiable. And I have sleep apnea, so it's a hard thing. And it's not a physical thing that caused by any kind of weight issues or anything like that. Just a natural thing that just occurred within me. It's a central nervous system issue, and I've got it worked down. But it'll never be fully cured. But I've got it down about as well as you're going to get with my situation. Master your time management. I mean, this is your tool. You've got to use this time wisely, scheduling, goal setting, and getting everything together for peak performance. Active living. You've got to live in the moment, keep moving, and sharpen your mind so you'll become unstoppable. And stay hydrated. I know that sounds like a simple thing, but we walk around, we're all dehydrated all the time. I mean, especially when it's hot, we don't get enough water in. So I mean, check your hydration, because more people than not are dehydrated. They don't even realize it. So achieving physical excellence isn't just about hitting the gym. It's about unlocking your full potential and understand how your body truly works. You know, how do you fuel your strength? How do you recover? Do you have tailored exercise programs, proper rest, spot on nutrition, the building blocks of success? These elements don't just work, they work together, creating unstoppable momentum to boost your strength, endurance, and overall performance. So, things to look at to make it happen. Understand exercise adaptations. You got to tailor training regimens to improve muscular strength and cardiovascular health. This is something that elite athletes do. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes, because that's part of the link that's with the podcast, of where you're going to learn about what elite athletes have that you don't, what you can do to work on becoming an elite athlete, working towards that way. And then there's a survey of questions to where you can fill out to work on a plan. And so everything, like I said, everything I do, we're going to work on a plan. So neuromuscular efficiency, and that is consistent training that enhances communication between the nervous systems and the muscles. This is going to improve your coordination and power output. An example would be regularly practicing sprint intervals that leads to faster reaction times. More explosive movements during athletic performance. So that's a good example. So you have to have recovery strategies. Make strategies. Don't just talk about it. Make full strategies. But they're going to help muscle repair, but also cognitive function. Understand the nutritional impact on macronutrients that you intake. Look at your supplements you take, all these things. You need to understand this. And so as we continue to go through peak performance, we're going to understand these things a lot better. But nutritional impact, how this impacts you in so many ways. Understand that what you put in your body impacts you in ways that you don't understand quite yet. Muscle hypertrophy. I mean, resistance training leads to increase in muscle fibers, contributing to greater strength and endurance. Metabolic flexibility. Regular training enhances the body's ability to switch between energy sources, such as fats and carbohydrates, during exercise. And that's something we're going to talk about as we look at marathon and ultra marathoners and different type of athletes like that, endurance athletes, because you got to be able to switch between fuel sources to be able to be truly successful. So here's 10 things. They're going to be on the sheet, but there's 10 things that separate elite athletes from just regular athletes. Obviously, it's going to be genetic advantages. Elite athletes often have genetic traits that give them an edge, like more fast twitch muscle fibers, higher VO2 max, and efficient biomechanics. I mean, if you look at these ridiculously fast marathon runners, they have biomechanics that are just unbelievable. They have superior training programs that are designed by top coaches that focus on strength, conditioning, flexibility, and recovery. They have advanced recovery techniques, and they use cutting-edge methods like cryotherapy, hyperbolic oxygen therapy, and advanced massage to speed up recovery. They have mental conditioning, techniques like visualization, mindfulness, and stress management, precision nutrition, of course. They use cutting-edge technology like wearables, biomechanic analysis, and real-time data to optimize training and prevent injuries. This is something that, you have to do. You have to work on preventing injuries, because, I mean, it's easy. When you're training for any type of event, injuries can happen. And so You can use this technology to prevent these injuries. They have expert support teams, nutritionists, physiotherapists, psychologists, all these things. They have a higher training intensity. They push harder than a regular athlete does. They push those physical limits while maintaining proper form and technique. They have goal setting and evaluation. They set clear goals. You don't see an elite athlete does not have clear goals, and they undergo regular assessments to ensure continuous progress. Where we don't. Regular athletes don't do this to near to this level, and they have an unwavering commitment. Above all, elite athletes, they have unmatched dedication, sticking strictly to their training, diets, and mental conditioning. And so, you've got to keep all these things in mind as we continue to grow and work towards peak performance. And so, on the sheet, you're going to see that you've got that, and then you're going to have the 10 ways to unlock your inner athlete and strive for elite status. So I'm going to go through them briefly, and I'm going to end the podcast, and then you need to, go to the link and go and start filling out how you can utilize what you have to become elite and strive for elite status. So you can set your sights high. What's your goal? Define it, break it into steps, and it'll lead to big achievements. Consistency is your superpower. Commit to showing up day after day. Build strength, skill, endurance over time. Start where you are and push a little further every time. Feed your potential. Great athletes don't just train; they eat smart. Fuel your body with lean proteins, whole carbs, healthy fats, and plenty of vegetables. Every bite counts. Build your foundation. Strength isn't just muscle; it's resilience. Focus on strength training with squats, deadlifts, and bench presses to improve stability, power, and fitness. Honor your recovery time. You have to do it. Even champions have to rest, sleep well, hydrate, stretch, and use, recovery techniques like yoga, like jogging, things like that. Get a coach. A coach offers you way more than you'd ever realize if you've not had a coach before. Track your journey. Track everything. Celebrate your wins. Track it, and track it some more. Train your mind because, to be elite, you want to be elite in many areas in your life, in all areas. It starts in your head. Practice mindfulness, visualization techniques, and build mental toughness. Gear up for success. Make sure you have the right tools, proper footwear, and things like that. And I'm going to have some of these things available for sale on the Peak Performance Podcast website here in the near future. And then find your people, because you need to you need to have like-minded individuals around. You have people that are supportive, that want to grow and do better, because at the end of the day, it's up to you. But if you have the right people around you, it'll lead to way more success than having the wrong people around you. So remember these things, and please follow the link so you can fill out the document. You can read through it. It tells 10 things that elite athletes have that you don't, 10 ways that you can work towards becoming an elite athlete. Then there's questions, and you can answer those questions to get ready for our next episode. But anyway, my name's Brad Young. This has been the Peak Performance Podcast. Thank you, and have a great day.